to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I wanted to take out time to commend Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott for taking bold and courageous action. I want to commend the City Council for taking bold and courageous action. I want to commend the other plaintiffs in this lawsuit against Donald Trump for taking bold and courageous action. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott and the City Council have sued Donald Trump to block his anti-DEI executive orders. And I just wanted to take out time to briefly discuss this. I want to summarize some of the highlights from those executive orders, and then also highlight some of the key allegations in the complaint, and then close with some of my thoughts about this particular action. So, as you all know, as soon as Donald Trump got in office, he passed a whole bunch of executive orders. 2 of those executive orders were designed to end diversity, equity, and inclusion. Basically, they were designed to roll back the clock on civil rights, to roll back the clock on progress, and to slam the door of opportunity in the faces of Black people, Latino people, Asian people, other ethnic minorities, women, LGBTQ plus individuals, and other marginalized communities in this country. We know that without diversity and equity and inclusion programs, the opportunities for minorities are closed, because many times people practice racism. For the longest time, Black people and other minorities were barred from certain professions, barred from, the opportunity to go to certain colleges and universities, barred from excelling and being promoted in different jobs because of racism, because of the good old boy network, because of this bias that people have towards only hiring people that look like them. Because of that, because of these denied opportunities for decades and centuries, there was a need for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And so Donald Trump is trying to roll back those programs, roll back the progress that we have made in this society. As a result of the work and the sacrifice of Black people and other civil rights activists, Black people have obtained success in corporate America. They've obtained success in government and other areas of society. But people like Donald Trump want to roll back that progress, and they want to deny us those opportunities. So this executive order, these executive orders that Donald Trump has passed, I'm going to summarize some of the key points. They call for the dismissal of DEI staff. And they also call for the dismissal of non-DEI staff who were previously DEI staff. They call for the termination of equity grants and loans. They call for the investigation of publicly traded companies that have DEI policies. They call for the investigations of universities with endowments over $1 billion. And because of this climate that Donald Trump is creating, many companies such as Target, Walmart, McDonald's, etc., are ending their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. A college that I went to, Rutgers, I went to Rutgers Law School. Rutgers has rolled back its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs because of threats from Donald Trump's administration. They are also requiring that federal contractors not have DEI policies. So in response to this step backwards, in response to this all-out assault on civil rights, Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott and the Baltimore City Council filed this bold and courageous lawsuit, and I commend them. They are on the right side of history. This moment in time that we're experiencing right now is a moment of truth. We have to be those voices that resist this undemocratic and unconstitutional president. Everything that he's doing is against the Constitution. And this lawsuit alleges that Donald Trump does not have the authority to unilaterally terminate equity-related grants and contracts without express statutory authority. This man is just canceling grants without any kind of legal authority. This man, as alleged in his complaint, is violating the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, which protects your due process rights. They have vague terms in these executive orders that fail to provide adequate notice. In addition, these anti-DEI executive orders violate the First Amendment rights of college professors and DEI officers. And lastly, this lawsuit alleges that the president nor the executive branch they don't have any authority to dictate how government funds are spent. And President Trump is trying to basically violate the Constitution. And thank goodness we have, checks and balances in this country. Thank goodness we have a court that can check Donald Trump for his unconstitutional action. This is not a monarchy where you have a king that can just issue orders. And, that's something that people have to realize. This man cannot just dictate laws off the top of his head that are not in compliance with the Constitution. So I'm glad that the mayor and the city council and all the other plaintiffs have filed this lawsuit to resist this unconstitutional action of this president. And I hope and pray that they are successful in this lawsuit. I hope and pray that others follow this bold, courageous example that our mayor has laid out. I hope that other states and other cities file lawsuits against Donald Trump. We know that ultimately these lawsuits will go before the Supreme Court. It's going to be a long and hard fight, but some fights are worth the effort. Some fights are necessary to save and protect this country and to protect this Constitution. So I'm concerned about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is a right-leaning court, but counsel hopefully will be prepared to make the distinctions that need to be made, because I'm sure that the Trump administration is going to argue that what they're doing is in alignment with the affirmative action case that was decided by the Supreme Court. And that's the case of Students for Fair Admissions versus the University of North Carolina. The council has to make distinctions between the anti-affirmative action case and these anti-DEI efforts and orders issued by the president. So I'm sure that they will be able to do so. Hopefully they will research arguments that are persuasive to the very few moderates and liberal justices on the Supreme Court to hopefully tip the balance in a favorable direction. So, yes, so I commend them. And things like this need to happen more often. We need actual lawsuits to end, these anti-democratic and anti-civil rights initiatives that this president, this wannabe dictator, is trying to implement. Because it's not enough to talk about something. We have to be about something, whether that's direct action, whether it's lawsuits, and whether it's outright boycotts. These companies that are going along with this Trump agenda, this anti-civil rights, they don't deserve our hard-earned dollars. So we should direct our dollars to companies that value us, to companies that value diversity, equity, and inclusion. The struggle continues.